The first paper that we're going to talk about is on the Adaptive Data Management Guide. So the first section of this paper talked about data stewardship and strategy. So how do we transform utilities to become more data savvy and implement data within their workflows? So for here, the main question for us was what are utilities best adapt their data stewardship, the strategies. And we had quite a number of discussions. I'll go into how we conducted the research and the debating around this paper and to build it into what it now has become. But firstly, we had to decide on how to define data stewardship, the challenges that utilities face when adapting their strategies, the tactics for overcoming these challenges, and also set up a few debate about which was the best case study to showcase, because of course we had different members in our group. We talked about different case studies, but for the case in point here, of course, we had to really focus on data stewardship, because then our other panelists will also highlight other cases that sometimes are quite linked, between data stewardship and cybersecurity, for instance, And overall, the conclusion that I would like to point out, and this is maybe bringing the point a little bit home from my intervention yesterday, but the data stewardship is very much like change management, and it's a process that is a little bit painful. It's a little bit slow at times, but if done well and usually through phased-in approach, it leads to success. So how did we come about writing this paper, deciding which topics to use, what would be the structure to follow? We all worked remotely from our different countries or different utilities or companies. So the main tool that we used was, well, first of all, video conferencing. Of course, to brainstorm and map ideas, we relied on the Miro board to make it a little bit more visual and use, instead of just like a Word template. We had meetings that emphasized flexibility, iteration of ideas, or reviewing of different experiences. And then we decided that we had to take ownership of this paper as well, because we could debate forever about this. In the end, we had to establish some sort of framework, proper milestones and deadlines, and own the paper ourselves. In this, well, these are some of the items that we discussed. And what does it mean, data stewardship for the group? What are the different things to take into account, such as, for instance, data protection standard approaches, which I think we will also tackle in the cybersecurity paper, and understanding the risks to scaling up and to including data stewardship as part of the day-to-day workflow of any staff. In the end, I would like to just mention and thank very much our different collaborators and leading experts that took ownership and that became the stewards themselves of the paper, from Vitens, Oslo, and Aguas de Porto as the key utility players. Then Cape Town gave their case study, which was fascinating. I hope that you can read about it in the paper. And Infotals was the technology provider that gave that different perspective to the group. This wouldn't be possible either without the leadership of James from ACOM, who sadly couldn't make it today to the SWAN conference. But overall, without these people, and these stewards, this paper wouldn't have been possible. So thank you to them.
Good afternoon to all of you. The water industry has always been a target, but as we embrace digital, the digital transformation, new vulnerabilities are emerging, especially in the cyberspace. While AI, digital twins, and remote access bring incredible efficiency, they also open doors to ransomware, credential theft, and operation sabotage. As you know, the old smart water incident in Florida was a wake-up call to all of us. Hackers remotely accessed to the treatment plan and tried to change parameters. That's not just a cyber risk, it's public safety. The importance of embedding cybersecurity practice through a business is never clearer than after a cyber incident. It's like keeping a fire extinguisher in an office. Imagine waking up a morning to find your company systems offline, the phones dead, and the printer with ransom notes. That's not fiction. That happened to us in Águas e Energia do Porto. In 2023, in a Sunday night, we found that we were attacked. We had nothing. We could not connect to no system. Our phones worked by IP. We didn't have nothing to work with. In this paper, you can learn about the 10 things that we learned with the cyber attack, things that we never thought that we will use in a case like that, like catering provider, like physical space, like plan rotations. All of that things are really important in a disruption like a cyber attack. You can see some pictures of what happened to us. One of the things that we learned that is different, the order that we will restore our softwares will not be the same depending on the day of the month that the cyber attack occurs. Because if it's near the payment check, the human resource software will be a priority. If it's in the other part of the month, maybe the operations software will be the first. That was what happened to us. Our employees could always see, you can see in the top picture, the order of the software restoration. In the main wall of the headquarters, we had a list with all the softwares and the restoration orders. Despite of that, we often hear things like, cybersecurity isn't my job. It won't happen to us. I'm sorry to tell you, it will happen to all of you. We only don't know when, but we are sure that it will happen. The truth is that every click, every password, and every person matters. So how to be prepared? Through education, collaboration, and culture. Companies must invest not just in tools and technology, but in people, and you have to test. Introducing gamification elements such as superheroes and villains, competitions, scores, and prizes are the key to engage people and have cybersecurity practice in our daily operations. I present to you our SWAN heroes that combat villains such as Billy Bumbler. You can learn more about these heroes and the villains in our paper that we'll have access later. In Águas e Energia do Porto, we learned something powerful. Success isn't about avoiding incidents altogether. It's about how to be prepared to respond, recover, and learn. 28 April, almost last week, put us on test. A power outage affected Portugal, and we were able to deal with it because we had a business continuity plan. This is not only about cybersecurity, it's about resilience. By treating business continuity as an outgoing process rather than a one-time effort, our companies can be better prepared against unforeseen disruptions. As you can see, in that day, we had nothing. We don't have even cell phones working. The only thing that never stopped was WhatsApp. We couldn't communicate outside our headquarters and outside the civil protection of the City Hall. We had the lack of having a dedicated fiber line for the municipal digital company. So we had always internet inside the headquarters and inside the City Hall emergency room. So we could connect each other in that two spaces. To tell the employees that they could go home, we had to print papers with a generator, because I'm the coordinator of the operations center, and we have a generator that supply our room. And everything worked there. We had everything in that room. We could print some information and put in the walls so the employees know that they can go home. We had catering because we learned from the cyber attack. And all the things that we learned when we made the business continuity plan, we know exactly what will go wrong and what will work. So it was easier to us to respond to that disruption. If you are interested in our story, read our paper and join me, Emma, Andy, and Martin, and Kevin in the SWAN Business Continuity Group. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Finn Boyle. I'm the Smart Water Director for Jacobs in Europe. Robert is very sorry he couldn't be with us today. He was our glorious leader through our research project around data integration and interoperability. We brought together a fantastic and passionate group from across vendors, academia, utilities and consultancies to unpack the problem of, or the issue, the opportunity, maybe I've given away the end of the paper there, of data integration and interoperability. And before I get into what the paper's about, I think more than anything what I wanted to say here is the impact of doing these research projects together. You know, yesterday we heard about our new tagline being transforming water together as a community from SWAN. And I think what SWAN does with these research projects is unique. It's not something you get from another member organisation. I think it's fantastic to see. We've certainly gained a lot from it. The group is a lot closer as a result of having been involved. So I would urge you all to pick up the next invitation and get involved in future projects. So what did we do? We followed actually a paper which was written by the Utility Interoperability Group. That was a utility-only project that looked at the benefits of standardizing and creating interoperability across internal utilities, but also across regions and utilities within them. We wanted to see, did that paper line up with what the vendors or the consultancies thought? I'm not going to tell you what was in it. You're going to have to read the paper, but I'll give you a little bit of a tease as to where we found and where we got to. So our paper looked to explore that wider perspective. We studied the potential impact on bringing digital integration and interoperability into the fore and making sure that that is widespread. We looked at the pros, we looked at the cons, we looked at the risks and the opportunities that exist within it on both perspectives, and models through which it can be achieved. Our summary provides a comparison between those key challenges and key opportunities that both vendors and utilities have with interoperability, how we can take positive steps forwards towards increasing interoperability, but not at the risk of stifling innovation within the sector, especially for smaller startup organisations. So how can we do that in partnership? And that's where our case studies come into play. So in the paper, you'll see several case studies from across the world which talk to examples of where partnerships have been established between vendors and utilities and the model through which they achieved a greater level of interoperability and integration, and how that was done through better communication, open dialogue, and the speed at which results can be delivered through a better relationship between the vendor and the utility. So please take the time to read the paper, but more than anything, take the time to get involved in the next project, and you'll get a whole load of value out of it. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm going to be joining the previous speaker with the idea of saying that SWAN, the organization of this kind of project report regarding different topics is something very unique. I've been enjoying a lot to be working with a team of people bringing several ideas regarding climate change and the impact it is having in resilience for water utilities. People from different backgrounds with a technical background, academic, just software development background, all of them joining forces in order to talk about resilience. A very important topic today for several utilities. We have been facing in the last time, as she was saying, power outage. We have been facing in Valencia, the Dana problem with flooding in Valencia, Mexico City. They have a big problem with water. They have a national problem, national security problem in Mexico regarding water. So every region of our country practically is facing different issues regarding climate change and resilience in water utilities. So this team have been led mainly by Peter from KWR and Water Resource Institute in the Netherlands, Tom Swain from Samotics. They have some colleagues in here as well, and all of them have been contributing a lot to the success of this report. Basically, we have been considering how the climate change is impacting in the resilience of water companies, how water companies should be approaching this new state, let's say, not having enough water or having too much water to deal with in the context of operation of water utilities. Basically, we have been trying to define resilience in the context of climate change. What is resilience at all? How should we be understanding that from the side of water utility? How we should be incorporating these new challenges regarding climate change in the way we are evaluating resilience at the side of the water utility? How, numerically speaking, can we have an assessment of what is our situation as a water utility? And of course, what should we do to improve the current situation of our utility? At the end, no matter the problem, we have to get the job done. We have to deliver. We have to provide water, no matter what is happening in the situation. We have, of course, in our report, several case studies that could be helping to illustrate better what I'm mentioning. So utilities can be checking it, getting the experience of what we have been writing in there, and using it to improve their own utilities. Of course, we are looking forward to have an interchange of experience with the existing utility, the community in SWAN, in order to improve this work, to be giving better metrics based on the experience of each of you of how to measure the resilience. As part of the work, we also have an online platform where utilities can use in order to put all the cases, to put the data they have and get an assessment of the resilience in terms of climate change. And we have been also including in our report some code in Python for those liking to develop code for extending geographic information system, QGIS, in order to add some criteria for evaluating a resilient during climate change. It is an ongoing work. I think, and that is the way we have been talking in the team, we need the help of the utilities involved in SWAN to improve this idea, to check what is better working in the practice, considering resilience, considering how do they manage their plans in order to be able to deliver water even in difficult conditions. And I think if we check all the people involved in SWAN, we can get a very good approach of how to deal with this kind of climate change in the near future for European utilities. My next speaker is coming. Thank you.
Always great to follow Adele. Thank you, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Billy Rosman. I'm with Hydro Digital, and today we're releasing a white paper from SWAN Americas on enhancing utility operations through IT/OT convergence. And I think, yesterday, just sitting through a day of speakers, of roundtables, it was amazing to me how much of a focus there was on IT/OT. I think 2 years ago when we started this white paper, a lot of the people we gathered around to go through this project didn't know what IT/OT convergence was. And so I think this is an extremely important topic because we all want the things that IT/OT convergence kind of promises. And that's the ability to access the data that people need to make the right decisions while remaining secure. So the ability to have better situational awareness, but to be confident in your cybersecurity posture, not to just close your eyes and say, our OT environment is fine, let's just not mess with it, let's just, leave it as it is, I'm sure it's okay. To provide that access so someone who needs to make a decision, maybe on treatment or distribution, can look at maybe a supply data that impacts that decision. To be able to operate more efficiently and to bring down those barriers that are within an organization, for good reason, but evolving over time to meet the new problems that we have. And so people want these things that IT/OT can provide, but once you start talking about the details, when you start talking about sending OT data out, people get really nervous about cybersecurity. And then they start talking to cybersecurity people, and they start talking about communications and telemetry protocols and segmentation, and there's lots of red flags, and everyone gets afraid. And so the purpose of this white paper is to really break it down. It's a practical guide for decision makers about what is IT/OT convergence, how do I get started, what is the process, who needs to be in the room. So, our definition is the secure unification of IT and OT, thinking through process, technology, people, and governance. In order to make the things that we all want to do, to use AI, to be able to use digital twins. But really, this step is needed to realize that, to actualize that dream. And as it's been discussed the past couple days, the reason why IT and OT are so far from each other is that they really have very different needs. They've been designed to meet different requirements. They have different histories. So IT systems, there are emails, there are document management. These are our business needs, often things that we can just update with the latest software. Whereas these OT systems are our industrial controls. So these might be things that have been put together over decades, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, that are still in place. And so bringing this information together in an integrated way is not straightforward. But really the purpose of this report is to break that down. So to give you an idea of some of the recommendations, one of the biggest things we've heard, especially from US utilities, is I can't connect my OT data to the internet, I can't send it to you because my system is air-gapped, and we're gonna leave it that way. And then when we listen to cybersecurity experts, they say the system is not air-gapped. And what that means is you need to shift your thinking. If your system is not air-gapped, that means you need to start monitoring that system if you're not doing that already. And then once you're monitoring, you need to understand what's critical. What is a SCADA asset that is changing a chemical dosage, maybe extremely critical, really important from a security perspective, versus something that's not that critical. And really just reframing this gets people sent on a very different direction. But in order to get there, you start with the simple things. You don't have to solve this overnight. And then the other component is collaboration is key. So the difference in culture, in setup of IT groups versus OT groups is enormous. And especially in the US, people often talk about, there isn't much recognition of the word OT. I have a SCADA system, and I have my systems integrators, and they work on our PLCs. And so even that education about, when we talk about OT, that's what we're talking about. That's a core part of what we tried to do here. So what the report contains is, what is IT-OT convergence? Why do we do it? Who should be involved in the process? How to get started, and we have many case studies from vendors, from utilities, mostly from the utility perspective, and then kind of synthesizing all that together. So this was all made possible by our amazing project team. So Jennifer, Clint, and Maddie, or Jennifer and Clint couldn't be here today. They are from Carollo and Brown Caldwell. They put in enormous amount of work. Maddie, who was here yesterday, has really guided this whole process, and we have a number of other project collaborators and contributors that we've acknowledged in the paper, but really a great effort. Excited to be part of this project and to release this paper. Thank you.